goal is to bring you your next favorite band.
Thanks for having us. This is a very cool show.
Yeah, so through many iterations, and we finally landed on the weirdest one by far.
Yeah, simple of feelings, and boom, you got a sound.
I remember this one time. I had been writing some songs, and I went out. I'm just going right in on this story. I went out, and so I was.
The story's longer than the song itself. We'll go ahead and play it.
And listen, it's going to be everybody's favorite band. Welcome to your next favorite band. That's both the show title and our promise to you. We here at Stereophilia Studio are tireless in our pursuit of finding incredible, genre-defiant artists who are either a hot up-and-coming band or a group that has been delivering for years but have flown under the radar. Tonight, we have the alt-rock, alt-country, wonderful, brand new music from Chicago, Illinois, Ratboys. Each month, we will bring you live streams, audio podcasts, and perhaps even a live concert where you can listen to the stories and hear the music of artists personally curated by us based on what we feel will be worthy of your time. Be sure to subscribe and tune in to each episode because the possibilities are endless and you never know who will be your next favorite band. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. I am your host, Philip Reese.
Hello, and I am your co-host, David Moore.
And you are listening to
Your Next Favorite Band.
And kind of was my next favorite band of 2023.
Yeah, this one was one that really landed for you particularly. I remember you being on a road trip for work, and you texting me about the song
Black Earth, Wisconsin.
Yes, from the album, the longer one. I couldn't remember the whole title.
Yes.
I knew it was something Wisconsin. And you were like, I just sat in the car and listened to it 3 times or something like that. Whatever what it was like a very dedicated response.
Yes. Well, we were even doing our festival announcement show. It was last May. Mm-hmm. And I was coming back from dinner, on my work trip, and rolled up to where I was parking to come into the hotel to do it, like you said, on the road trip, and couldn't stop listening to it. So we started late that night, all because of that song, which I share with her in the interview. Tonight is a pre-recorded interview with Julia, just based on their schedule of what was available. So so we had to set it up to be at a certain time. But I share it with her, and it's kind of funny the way she reacts to it. It's pretty funny. But yeah, no, it's a band that I was sort of familiar with prior to 23, but it really landed in 23 with that brand new album, The Window. Kind of viewed it as album of the year. If anybody cared to ask me, what I thought was from track 1 to track 10 or 11, what I found to be the best album, if anybody, again, but who am I? But that was the one that podcast. Burned through, the CD the most, which I don't have a CD. I just like the thought that the laser would burn through it if you listen to it so many times.
I don't know if that would happen.
I don't think so, but if it were to happen, it would have happened to that
There's
one.
There's probably something wrong with your CD player at that point in time.
That's a powerful. Yeah, it was more of like a, Department of Defense, design or something. But yeah, so I really enjoyed the interview. I think everybody's going to really enjoy that. And if you don't know the music of Ratboys, you're definitely going to love it. I mean, like I kind of said in the opening there, and it is classic for us in this, what the heck genre is it? In the different things we read, alt rock, which I kind of even say it in the interview, what does that even mean anymore? Because it's so universally used. But alt country, I thought was an interesting one because if you do listen to it, they do kind of have a twang to them at different tracks. And it's a really nice combo.
Yeah, I think there's certain instrumentations that definitely show up that at least, if not say alt country, they at least hint at being, they're neighbors.
Yes.
Kind of thing, kind of thing.
And Julia refers to it as y'all alternative, which I thought was hilarious.
That's pretty funny. That's solid. I give credit for that.
Yeah, or I won't keep stealing from my own interview, but
Yes.
but it is cool. But before we get into that and into some of their music, I wanted to get your opinion on something. What's your take on if you go to a concert, are you allowed to wear the T-shirt of the band you're going to see?
God, that's from a movie that they literally somebody shows up in a Van Halen T-shirt during the 1984 tour.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they're like, you're gonna break the band up. What's my opinion on that? I don't know. I'm sort of don't really care. I sort of fall into the opinion on that one. It's like, did you buy it that night and put it on? That's fine. Like, did you also
that one makes a lot of sense, especially if it's like you're maybe a younger fan and this is like you've been looking forward all summer to this show, then yeah, go all in.
Right. Or it's you saw them on their tour 35 years ago and you still have the T-shirt and it still fits you.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe then that's kind of cool too.
Sure.
But I don't know. I know some people really get hung up on that. Like, you're supposed to wear like something that's like related but not the same thing.
Right. Yeah, like maybe a band they used to be in or someone you saw open for them last tour.
Right.
Similar city, maybe, whatever, like something that's related. I kind of like that angle too. Main reason I ask is because I am such a fanboy today that I am wearing my Ratboys t-shirt to the Ratboys interview. I didn't go so far as to do that when we hit play. You'll see I'm in a different shirt, but yeah, I couldn't hold back. I wanted to display my fandom.
Embrace your rat boyness. I don't know what they call their fans, so that feels correct to me.
Rat fans?
Rat fans, rat boys with a Z.
With a Z and an I. Yeah, so people, please let us know what you think if that's, like you said, going to break up the band or if it's going to be something that's okay. But as is usual for our show, we do like to bring in some of the sound first. This particular song, it's a classic for Phil. I'm going to say, boy, I love this song. But it's a song called It's Alive. It's off of that new album called The Window. And we're going to enjoy some of it here. We'll let David do some bio, and then we'll get into the interview. Here is It's Alive by Ratboys. Founded in 2011 by songwriters Julia Steiner and Dave Sagan, during their time at Notre Dame, Chicago's Ratboys color their sauntering, reflective indie rock with distortion and hints of rustic alt-country. After emerging with their first EP, The Homespun Ratboy, in 2015, they fleshed out their palette, adding pedal steel, strings, and more by the time they recorded their second full-length, 2017's GN. With Sean Newman on bass and Marcus Nucio on drums, the cohesive unit released in 2023 their fourth album, the Chris Walla produced The Window, and it found them exploring their indie toolbox further with instruments such as rototoms and talkboxes in the mix.
It's alive.
time for our interview with Julia Steiner of Ratboys. So there you heard some Ratboys off of their pretty much brand new album that came out in 2023, The Window, and that was their song It's Alive. And today joining us, we have frontwoman Julia Steiner.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you so much for joining. And absolutely, so your music is basically that type of music that scratches that part of my brain that needs to be itched all the time, that kind of 90s vibe where I really formed a lot of my stuff, but it's definitely your own sound, and it just carries that torch a little bit. And it's when first I heard any of this, it was such something that was kind of on repeat all the time. And for us, it was kind of our album of the year in 23 was your The Window.
Oh man, that's very kind of you to say and to listen to the music that much. I grew up in the 90s and grew up I kind of came of age in the 2000s, but was listening to the 90s music that my mom would put on all the time. And so I don't know if it was subliminal or what, but you're not the first person to say that. Yeah.
Yeah. And even that, so on this show, we famously kind of shed genre because it tends to be too pigeonholing and not a good descriptor in the first place. But what I kind of found funny was you get this alt rock label, which now probably means nothing anyway. Like it's so many things are that category. Even when you watch the Grammys, which was last week, it's like, you're seeing category after category and subcategory. It's like, does anything mean anything anymore? Just find good music is really all we're into. But you also get alt country, which I get that too. Or I heard you refer to it as y'alternative, which I thought was pretty hilarious.
Yeah. I use the phrase post-country back in the day, which I think was pretty funny because there's all these different post genres like post-rock. And, when I first met Dave, he was enlightening me about post-hardcore, which I didn't know what hardcore was to begin with. So I was like, there's already a post. This is amazing. But so there's all sorts of different labels you can give. I know someone was talking about the new Wednesday album and they called it boot gaze, which I thought was quite clever.
That is clever. That's the thing is you have to get clever now.
Yeah.
And It's like, if once you got there, it's like, it's not defining to the point that it could mean something to someone other than maybe just the cleverness of, I think I know what that means.
Right. And then if you live in the moment and don't get bogged down, like you said, genre is pretty meaningless maybe, but it can be pretty fun too.
Absolutely. No, right. And I get it that the industry kind of needs it, but for our purposes, what we hope to do is just simply serve up great music every week.
Cool.
And people will just tune in, and it's irrelevant what genre it is, whether it's jazz or hip hop or blues or Ratboys. Awesome. Then it should be something to tune in for. But wanted to spend a little time on the new album. So it's called The Window, and the title track there, I kind of wanted to spend a moment on this because it's one of those ones where it is a great song, and then when you hear the story behind it, it becomes an even greater song. Because from what I understand, it's sad, but it becomes such a meaningful element to it. If I understand it right, it was about your grandfather coming through the COVID times where he had to observe his partner through a window.
Right. Yeah. The song is kind of told from his perspective of having the experience of saying goodbye through an open window, which is unfortunately kind of how it went down.
Yeah.
In the summer of 2020, my grandmother, who long before COVID was living with Parkinson's disease, it just so happened that all coincided with the world shutting down, where her life was coming to an end. And my grandfather and my mom weren't able to, go inside the nursing home where she was living. And so this was sort of the next best thing. And honestly, I want to shout out the woman who was, caring for my grandma at this facility, because this was all her idea. And lucky for us, my grandma was on the ground floor. So it was totally doable, to open this window and facilitate this conversation. But it's just all this, there's all sorts of strange loss and grief that we have to deal with anyway, but then add to it that element of, not being able to go inside a room in that summer and yeah, it was just, you know, you got to be kind of persistent in your
Totally.
need to communicate and share your love. And so, yeah, it was just a unique situation, and the song kind of came about very naturally. Yeah, it makes me oddly happy to sing it too.
Yeah, I can see that. I could see where it might become something where it's therapeutic, maybe perhaps, or just working through.
Totally. And I mean, like, it helps me remember her, and yeah, it's a nice story to me of, like, kind of resilience.
Yeah. So I encourage people who know the song to go back and listen to it again with the new color. But or if you haven't heard it, just go and listen to it now, knowing that, and I think you'll really enjoy it. And stick around for the whole album. I kind of wanted to touch on that because I've learned it's something that means a lot to you, and something you're passionate about is kind of the sequencing of the album. So the order in which the songs are tracked. So you write songs, and then you almost write the album by then being very intentional in the order that it goes. And I kind of wanted to have you share some of that, because I think it's very, very fascinating stuff. And people need to know that, because this new world of streaming and buying one song and putting it on shuffle, it blows out that opportunity to understand an extra layer of excellence.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We're kind of back where we were, in the 60s and 70s, when like the single was the most important thing, like the 7-inch single. And now I was just reading last night about this guy. I think his name was Peter Grant. He was Led Zeppelin's manager in the late 60s and 70s. And his whole thing was like, no, we need to give these guys space to write an album. Like that's the format that they're interested in. That's what they want to release. So like, screw your conventions, this is what they want to do. And I just have so much respect for that, because I'm still very much enamored with the long player album format, just like that length of time for some reason, anywhere between 30 to 45 minutes or longer, whatever, for 10 to 12 songs is the convention, but whatever it may be, like that amount of music just feels really digestible and like complete to me. And it's fun. Like sometimes we'll start working on a song and it just immediately has like first track energy, or like this last track energy, and it is so useful, because then that sort of becomes like a stake in the ground, like a landmark almost, where it's like, okay, that's there, now we can kind of work around it and kind of feel out what would we want to hear next, or like what kind of if there's this sort of feeling of tension in the first song or the last song, like how do we resolve it coming out of it or going into it or whatever.
Well,
like,
I think you shared like a little bit of a formula of like song 1 needs to grab your attention, song 2 needs to build trust, song 3 can be a little experimental and say, come with me where I'm about to go. And it's like I started listening to your albums, and maybe even others, like just trying to see if they had a similar kind of approach, and it's amazing how you can kind of start to pick that up.
I mean, there are obviously exceptions. Like our first album, there's a frame that I like too, where it's obviously like the first song is more of an intro song. It's kind of like setting things up.
Sure.
I will say one of my biggest pet peeves in music is when bands just call that first song intro.
Yeah, that's like, a little. You like, phoned it in on that.
We get it. Like, right. We know. But
use your creative juices to get something else out there
all the time. But actually, on that first record that we put out back in 2015, that was my plan, was just to call that first song intro. And our friend Sept, who recorded it, was like, no. Like, that's not good enough. Like, we need to come up with a name. And I was like, well, I don't know. He's like, why don't you just make it the title track of the album? And I was like, oh, that's like the complete opposite, but it ended up being helpful, and that's what we did. But so there are other ways to do it, but that is my generally preferred kind of structure, is like grabbing someone's attention and then locking it in, and then taking that locked in attention and just going somewhere completely unexpected.
And the other thing I heard you say is kind of like the second to last track is always like a sneaky great song. And in my research for this interview, you had me going down so many old wormholes like this here. I started going like, well, let me go look. And what I kind of found was like, if it has 10 songs, then the second to last one often is this sneaky great one. But if it had 12 or more, it was typically the very last song that was the cool one. Like, and I don't know why that would even be. It's probably just like pure coincidence of maybe the couple of bands I looked in on. But that seemed to be the thing, was like, track 9 was often like a great one if it was 10, but then once you got over that, they wanted to save it for the closer, I guess, maybe.
Totally. That's interesting. I'll have to, yeah, we love a caveat. I got to do some research of my own. That's an interesting point.
But yeah, so in sticking with The Window, from what I understand, it was a hey, the world shut down, but we have to keep going kind of album, and in a lot of ways did new things for you. In first of which was, I guess, songwriting was slightly different for this one, where, and again, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounded like typically you would kind of create the bones of a song, you'd bring it to Dave, and you'd work on it, and then bring it to the rest of whoever's performing. Then this one was more, you brought the bones of the song to the entire band, and you worked through it together.
Yeah, for the most part, yes. Like how it would work before this album was I would, like you said, bring the bones of the song to Dave, and then he and I would actually like demo out the song, just the two of us, and like write drum parts and write the bass. Dave is a very talented bass player. That's like his first instrument, and so
yeah, that's I have that note down too when we get to where you guys first meet, and it's like he was a bassist and he's this ripping guitarist that's insane.
I know,
and it just came out of like later on for him. It's amazing.
I know, yeah, it's pretty wild, but yeah. So like back before this album, that's what we would do. We would cobble together some drum ideas, and Dave would kind of come up with bass lines, and then once everything was pretty much like solidified, we would bring those demos to whichever of our friends were like available to record, which since the end of 2016, Sean, who plays bass, has been very steadfast collaborator in that regard. And then Marcus kind of came in around the Printer's Devil time, expressing an interest to record. And so, yeah, but it was always kind of very haphazard and like teaching friends parts right before we would enter the studio. And yeah, this time it was different because we, like you alluded to, we just had so much free time and kind of an indefinite amount of like,
and the ability to play around with things.
Totally.
And you're mentioning everybody. I have a picture here of the band. This is from the show I caught of you at Johnny Brenda's. I figured you could kind of point that out. That's obviously you in the middle with the Steelers hat on.
Yes.
From Chicago, but Steelers fan. We talked about that.
Steelers fan. I'll while I'm hidden, I'll reveal my shirt. But yeah, Sean Newman plays bass. He's there stage right. And he is like an old friend of ours. He and Dave went to neighboring high schools, so they were kind of coming up playing in bands together.
Right.
And yeah, Marcus is back there playing drums
with a Thrasher shirt on, which is amazing.
With the Thrasher shirt, he's the skater boy of the group.
Nice.
Love to see it. Yeah, he's a couple years older than Dave and I. And he has been playing bands in like Chicago suburbs and in Chicago since he was like 14. So, that's the old cliche. If you got a good drummer, he's probably in a million bands. So
sure. Right.
That is true. But yeah, so Marcus has been rocking the drums for us for a few years now. And then, there's Dave to my left. And yeah, we've known each other for almost 14 years now. So
you've met in freshman orientation, is that right? At college?
Yeah.
Like right on there's the Steelers. There we go.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we met really early on in school, like literally that first weekend. We had actually made an acquaintance online before we started, which was pretty funny. Like this is back in the age of like Facebook groups was the way that people met, and
which was like the original way it was intended to be used.
Exactly. I know.
Wow, it actually worked.
Yeah, like I made a friend, like a real friend. But yeah, and we noticed each other had like instruments in our profile pictures or whatever, and so
right.
we kind of added each other as friends, and then just made plans to hang out. And of course, I like promptly forgot about it, and he somehow got my phone number from a friend, and and just found me. I was very grateful, but
there you go.
Yeah, we became friends quickly, and we were two of the only people that really cared about music, as far as we could tell when we first met, and so it was a good bond for sure. But yeah, so it's funny though, because like this time with the album, over the years, you gain so much trust with the people that you're spending time with and making music with. And so we were already planning to go on tour together. We had all this creative energy kind of built up as a 4-piece. And so, yeah, when it came time to work on these new songs, we kind of skipped that step of demoing as a 2-piece and then bringing it to a band. We basically, I wrote the songs, showed them to Dave, got the green light, and then immediately brought them to the band. And we spent a lot of time tinkering with them and practicing them live before we ever demoed them. So
Sure, yeah, and another element of this was you had run into, like, well, I'm sure it was more than just hey, there's Chris Walla, but you had met with Chris Walla and he agreed to produce this album. So connected with Death Cab for Cutie, right? And you recorded in Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, I know you're joking, but it kind of was like that. Like,
okay, cool. I didn't want to make it sound like it was just this happy, like
no.
at like
it was
the Whole Foods or something like that. But
well, it wasn't at the Whole Foods, but yeah, we were on tour. This was back in 2018. We were on tour with a band called Foxing from St. Louis, who's like some of our heroes in our particular scene, and yeah, they had just made a record with Chris Walla called Nearer My God, which, if you've never heard it, is an absolute masterpiece. It's in like maximalist to the max. But
Nice.
yeah, it's fantastic. And we were on tour with them supporting that album. And so Chris came out to a couple of the shows on that tour. And so literally at this show in Montreal, which is where he was living at the time, you know, I walked backstage and there he was. And I was like, whoa, like I am a huge fan, you know, of his work and of Death Cab particularly. And so, yeah, it was really surreal. I was really shy. I like wasn't really able to
form sentences.
No, yeah, we didn't really have like a real conversation. And so I kind of thought I blew it. And I was like, well, you know, that's fine. It's okay. At least he was there. You know, it's cool that he saw us. I broke a string at that show. I'm like, this is fun for him to see, I'm sure. But yeah. And then, so later on in the summer of 2021, we were trying to figure out who we were going to record with, because we had all these songs very much like
ready
hand.
to go,
yeah. And so we just kind of cold called him. We like, through our manager, emailed his manager and just said like, hey, you know,
remember that dynamite conversation?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think I did not lead with that, thankfully. But yeah. And luckily for us, he knew who we were and like was interested. And so it's long story short. Yeah, we ended up connecting, and I'm so grateful because he's not only an amazing, you know, like technical wizard and like studio guy, but he's also just such a kind person and like very down to earth and very open and like imaginative and a great kind of custodian or like guide for our journey here.
I understand he had you record this to tape, and that was the first time you had done that kind of a approach.
that was like the first thing he said to us when we were like ironing out the logistics of the plan to record. He was like, I really want you guys to do this to tape. And we said, hell yeah, you know, we've never had the opportunity to do that. And so we were all really excited to try it. Yeah.
So the elements of that for people who may not understand is, and you'll do a better job at this, but you kind of have to get it in one take, right? Like you have to, you know, have it be not where you can do as much. It's more of a live take, I guess, is more like.
Yeah. There's flexibility in the way that you can dump the tape recording into the computer and make small edits if you need to, or like you can grab a piece of the tape and splice it together with another piece. It's really labor intensive, and we didn't end up doing that, but you can. And so like the pressure wasn't sky high to the point where we were like, oh, if we don't all nail this completely, like.
But I guess that's the point, is it's not like layering tracks. It's like you're playing it, and if it worked, then we're going with that take kind of.
Exactly. Yeah, that's more of what it is. Like you have a finite amount of space on which to record, and so if you, for instance, a song like Black Earth, Wisconsin, which is 8.5 minutes long, there's only 27 minutes of recording space on a reel of tape. And you really don't want to get close to that. Like you don't want to test that, you know, endpoint. And so we knew we could kind of only fit 2 takes to be safe on a reel. And so that's what we did. We did 2 takes in the studio.
Amazing.
And at that point we were like, well, let's listen back, because if we want to move forward with one of these, that's great. Or if we don't feel like we got it, we need to record over these. And once you do that, they're gone. Like you don't have, you know, a fallback. So
it's almost as if I asked you to do this. I was about to bring that song up and play it. So
cool.
You set the table perfectly. So let's listen into some Black Earth, Wisconsin. After it plays a little bit, I'll take the volume down, but if you don't mind, we'll talk over the top of it. And as we continue this is such a stellar song. And even though it is 8.5 minutes, you will love every second of it.
Thanks.
So here is Black Earth, Wisconsin by the Ratboys. Oh, sorry, Ratboys. There's no the, right?
You can say whatever. I kind of like it when people say the Ratboys.
The Ratboys.
Whatever
right,
you'd like.
Appropriately, though, it is just Ratboys. Here's Black Earth, Wisconsin. Story about it taking just 2 takes to get this. It just adds to such an element of appreciation and even makes me love it that much more.
Thanks. Yeah, I don't know what happened. We got really lucky that day. It really locked in. This was like the first thing we did when we went into the studio on this particular day. I think it was like day 3. And it just fell into place. It was I love watching this video.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
God, I went down the craziest rabbit hole working on this. Like, oh my God, right around a year. This was like January of 2023, and this is my whole life for like 2 weeks. It was very fun and very time consuming, but yeah.
And this is one of 2 Dave solos, right?
Kind of. Yeah. I mean, I guess I kind of think of it as all one big solo, but it kind of has sections to it for sure.
Right, yeah. I guess that would be the thing is.
Yeah.
But if my college buddies know that this song comes right out of like what would be in the the Philip Reese the roadmap to what I love in a song. I loved always the 8+ minute songs, the extended guitar solos, this kind of fuzzy. You could hear this song. It could be 2 a.m, walking back home from having a great night out, or it could be 4 p.m, getting, just coffee somewhere. Like, it's just, I don't know, it just hits all the right levers for me.
Thank you. Yeah, this is definitely kind of our favorite song coming out of the session. We were just really kind of, it exceeded our expectations, I think. And so, before we announced the album and stuff, Marcus was like, why don't we just put this one out? And at first we were like, I don't know, but I'm glad we did, because it's fun to give this one its own little world to chill in before.
Yeah, it kind of gets its own zip code for sure.
Exactly. Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And speaking of which, there actually is a Black Earth, Wisconsin. It's right outside of Madison.
Yep.
For those who are cared to, there it is. That's Black Earth, Wisconsin.
It does not feature in this video at all, I'm afraid, but you can imagine.
Sure, yeah.
It looks pretty similar to some of these places. So.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, just incredible. Like, famously, when I was like first hearing the song and I couldn't turn it off, I was late to an episode of this show.
No.
Because I pulled up. I pulled up and it was like 2 minutes left, and I just had to hear the rest of it. So like I turned it off and so on, and we went live a little late, and I was like, sorry, I just had to finish listening to Black Earth, Wisconsin.
Wow. Hey, I'm honored. That's what do they call it? NPR calls that something. They call it like the garage door moment or
Yes.
whatever, where you can't leave your car. That's awesome.
Exactly, yeah.
Wow, that's an honor. Love it.
But yeah, no, it's just such a killer song. So I guess just in kind of the wrap of, and again, for those of you who maybe, this is now a guitar solo being played by someone who originally learned on bass and kind of didn't pick up the guitar until into college, right?
Yeah, it's weird. Like when I met Dave, he was very much a bass player. Like he had played in, DIY, very much like garage rock bands in high school, and he was always the bass player. And so even when we first started playing music together, I would be playing acoustic guitar and he would be playing bass. And we would perform like that, at like, open mics and
Sure.
basement shows, whatever. So, that was the move for a while. It was bass, and he started picking up electric guitar as we were getting going, playing live too. And so, I think, I look back and I'm like, wow, you kind of like learned how to play guitar for this band, which is insane to me because he's just like the most naturally talented guitar player I've ever met.
Yeah.
And in a way that like he can truly pick up anything and also just express himself very fluidly and like without thought. And I'm really not that way. Like I'm playing chords, and like doing building blocks, and he's just, like I don't know, writing with a pen when he plays guitar.
Right.
Very cool.
So there was like kind of like a little resolution going on here, and I heard too, there weren't lyrics here initially, and then you felt like you needed to add some.
Right, yeah, we didn't have really a way to end this song. This one
It was just going to go on for like 38 minutes.
I don't know, like the original recordings, what we did during 2020 and 2021 is we would just record our practices, and so the original like practice recordings of this song are shorter, like 5 minutes long, and so we just didn't really have a clear way to end it, and the early versions of me like playing this alone had this whole different part at the end, and like chords changed in a different way, and it just didn't feel good. And so Marcus, our drummer, had the idea to just keep playing the same chords but try to come up with a slightly different vocal idea to wrap it up. So I'm really glad he pushed me to do that.
Yeah, this almost feels like, again, like that little maybe epilogue or following morning, like that you made it through this storm. I imagine that's
totally. Yeah, it was. Yeah, the idea is sort of like Midwestern, like post-apocalyptic nursery rhyme.
Sure.
At the end here, so love that vibe. But yeah.
We're gonna definitely get into that, where like there's this kind of duality to what you're playing and what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll touch on that in a second, but we'll let Black Earth, Wisconsin come home here.
Sweet.
We'll even bring it up a little bit here for the big finish.
Love the big finish.
People questioned me on whether I could play an 8.5-minute song on this show, but there you have it. I did it. I pulled it off.
I don't think it was ever a question of if you can.
Well, true.
You should, and I'm glad that we did that. That was really fun.
Yeah, no, that's such a. I mean, like I said, it was an anthemic for me for a while there, and then
that's awesome.
The other thing too that I'll say is the live performance that you put on is stellar. So like it'll be a live version of that song. It's not like it sounds just like the recording, but it is just like the recording as far as like, again, the talent and what you're hoping for in a performance of it. Like you guys just rip. It really is great.
Thanks. Yeah, it's fun. It's nice because like for me, it's a good mix of structure and improvisation, because with that song, we have a very solid 5 crash cymbal system going on. If you are paying close attention, the length of time that we're playing for the song for is the same every time we play it live, we have not deviated yet from
Mhm.
that. But Dave's solo has like a new life each time, and so he doesn't stick to the same notes, as it were. So
Gotcha. Yeah, and nor
love that.
you probably wouldn't want that, right?
No,
you would
definitely
want
not.
to see the talent of the musician on display, again in the same zip code, but
Yeah.
doing something different.
I think there are little markers that he uses, like to keep himself
Sure.
on track. But also, I love when he just throws all caution to the wind. Like, there's things to be said for like the George Harrison guitar solo, which is always, like extremely like written and melodic and like singable. You know what I mean? But
Right.
I don't know if I'd want to hear that for a 4-minute George Harrison guitar solo. I wonder what that would sound like. Actually, I guess we'll never know. But yeah, it's nice to have some freewheeling stuff too.
Oh, totally. And that's your most recent album. You obviously have
Yeah.
4 total, I believe it is.
Well, technically 5. Just
5, yes.
we did like a retrospective, like a re-recording thing.
Right.
That wasn't really like a studio album as much. So we kind of called this our 4th album.
That's where it comes from. So
Yeah.
with that, we always like to kind of dive a little bit farther back in, the story, if you will. And so,
Yeah.
what I understand here is like you also kind of came to music later on. You were playing it, but you weren't in a band. Were you recording yourself in the bathroom or something like that?
Yeah. I was playing by myself. Yeah, that's the move. That bathroom reverb is.
It's got
always-
a good sound. Yeah.
I mean, fun fact: my guitar amp for the Window album was recorded in a bathroom. So
Wow.
we love a bathroom.
Bathroom.
Yep, I can stand bathrooms for sure. Yeah, that was my original experience, was just playing guitar kind of by myself. I had a good friend in grade school and high school who also played guitar, and actually her older sister was really a talented jazz guitarist, and so she kind of got me into it, like taught me some chords and gave me some CDs, and stoked my interest for sure. But I definitely didn't have any friends who were playing in bands, especially like loud bands. And
I think you brought this one up, and I always like to make sure we touch on these things. For a female in that time frame, there wasn't a lot of diversity in the type of music you wanted to play. You didn't see it, whereas there's a lot of that. Hopefully changing in the right way, but there's still a lot of more work to do. But for you, that wasn't necessarily there to inspire you to go and do that in the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely in my small, circle of where I was living, there just weren't any girls playing in bands. To be fair, though, I just didn't know anyone playing in bands.
Sure.
And like I look back at my iPod, and yeah, it was lots of dudes on there. But I mean, sensitive dudes, it was all good. I was listening to Sufjan Stevens just constantly, and
he's amazing.
Yeah, he's my hero. And so I was listening to him, and that gave me a lot of confidence that like it's cool that I'm playing alone. I like this. And so I would literally just play all the time in my bathroom. And
you were singing, you were in choir.
Yeah, exactly. So I was collaborating with
Right.
other people, just in a very different way. But I loved that, and I actually really miss singing in a choir, and sight reading, and learning how to harmonize really well. But
I was hoping you might unlock this one for me, because I heard you say this, but you didn't actually tie it, and maybe you'll want to keep it a secret. Which either way, that'll be super cool. You talked about a pedal note and how you learned it from the choir times of being like an alto singer, and now you've somewhat used it in some of your music these days.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something I learned, and this is a pretty like basic, or like, I don't know, like a pretty, maybe an obvious thing to some people, but in choir, the lowest part, it was an all women's choir, and so I was really singing pretty low.
Sure.
And say it for the lack of like guys. And yes, a lot of times that involves singing a single note and not changing that note while the other voices will change on top of what you're doing, which is known as a pedal note. And it just kind of taught me that sometimes the best harmony doesn't involve a ton of changes, or like a ton of not every voice has to be, constantly moving around, or bending over backwards, or like doing backflips and stuff. And so it's been really helpful still. I mean, sometimes I'll record for friends or anytime we're working on harmonies, it's always good to remember that sometimes the best option doesn't involve the
Jumping around,
the
yeah,
craziest leaps. Yeah,
Mhm.
so it's still really a useful tool to have. And yeah, recording those low harmonies is always really fun and exciting. Don't get to do it as much anymore, but hey, always fun.
That is very cool. And then you had mentioned before that you kind of started to be formative with music in the early 2000s or mid 2000s. In particular, and I never thought, I didn't have this on my Ratboys bingo card, but you got music from the OC, like the show.
Oh yeah.
Which this was another rabbit hole I went down, is I was like, I do remember that. And the OC soundtracks, like there's like 6 of them or something like that, are all loaded with great music.
Absolutely, like a formative document for anyone my age, and people can. I'll turn 32 this year, and yeah, like I was just the perfect age for that show, and that music. The soundtrack is so much better than the show.
And the show,
great. You know what I mean?
Like when I first was like the OC, and then I look back, I'm like, wait, this is amazing music.
No, it's shocking, and like. And it's
some
cool
of it
too.
is like not one hit wonders, but like somebody you didn't know at all. Like it's like but so don't skip any tracks. Go after you finish listening to this interview. Go check out the OC soundtracks and just hit play, or it's really
it's awesome because it's not just bands that like got really big. Like for instance, Pinback is like one of that's our drummer's favorite band and a band I love too, and that's how I found them, was on the OC soundtrack. They had a really good song called Fortress on there, and I didn't really return to them until later, but then it like blew my mind when I realized I've known this band all along.
Right.
But and I mean that it's just truly something that I don't know if we've seen since or like we'll ever see again, the way that music was like written into that show too, like
and that was the other one, is like you get introduced to Death Cab for Cutie through that show because they were characters in the show.
They were characters in the show. They were on the show. They were also just like a talking point, like a part of the dialogue in episodes where they weren't even there. Like Seth Cohen, who's one of the main characters, loves that band so much that he brings them up all the time in casual conversation. And like they're like a punchline in the show. There's like a really funny line where Summer, his boo, is like I think her name's Summer. God, I don't remember. But she's like, what does she say? She's like, God, they're not even saying it. They're just sad, or like it's like some emo punchline, and it's so funny. But it's like a big part of the show, and so that's how I first found Death Cab, and when the iPod was just becoming a thing, that was like a huge shift for me from like Green Day, American Idiot, which I still love. Right. But I was listening to that and like this 70s CD that I had,
sure,
just like a compilation, like Guess Who, American Woman, and like lots of Bee Gees and like stuff like that. So I was able to shift from that to like actual like contemporary music in that day and age.
Totally.
And, it was great.
Yeah. And like I said, when I went back, I found all these songs that I knew and kind of had forgotten and got reacquainted with, and very, very good stuff in there. But then basically, this was where I kind of wanted to touch on that kind of like the duality of the music. There was, you wrote a song, I think, when you were 14 that actually is on that first album, Postman Song.
Yeah.
And it was like, and other songs too that you have where it's like, I think you've worded it as having dark lyrics with sunny music. And it's this, and then you kind of tout Jenny Lewis as being, God, like huge in that area.
She's the queen. I mean, if you listen, some of her and Rilo Kiley's biggest songs are just absolute like master examples of that. Like,
sure.
I don't know if I'd call it a technique or whatever, but that like experience of, I'm thinking like her song, or I guess it's the Rilo Kiley song, The Execution of All Things, which what a title. She's just singing in such a sweet, like innocent way. When she's like talking about killing all your children, and so it's like it's just so like absolutely mind-blowing, insane if you like dig in any way, like beyond the surface level of the sunny music and like major key it's pretty insane.
There's an artist, Mike Maines. Mike Maines and the Branches. I don't know if you're familiar with them at all, but same kind of thing. And he'll be singing this like almost poppy, dancey song, but it's about his like struggles with substance abuse and like, it getting in the way of a happy marriage and all this stuff. And it's just like if you don't pay attention, you're just kind of bebopping along. But once you do, you're like, oh my, what? Like,
yeah, I love it. I mean, that's just kind of life, like
it totally is.
Yeah, it feels very representative of like.
Yeah, and he often says he always shares this quote. It was a Tom Waits quote that says, "I prefer beautiful melodies telling me terrible things."
Yep.
Yeah. So anyway,
love that. Love that. I can. Yep, that sounds like something I should tattoo on my body.
Well, you can thank Mike Maines for that one. But if you do like that kind of music, check out Mike Maines. He's excellent. It's Mike Maines and the Branches is the band. And then, so now we're going to move into the section where you go to college. So this is where you kind of touched on some of this. You meet Dave, freshman orientation. You start playing music together. He originally played bass. And then, from what I understand, too, you studied journalism.
Yeah, like English literature.
Got it. Yeah. And then, so when Sean joins the band, he's also a journalist. So there's like a big journo thing happening.
Sean's much more of a real journalist than I ever was. I was never a professional journalist. I was like the editor of our campus magazine. But when I graduated, I got a job just like at a PR firm and quickly quit that. And so I never really had I never worked in a professional newsroom outside of like an internship here and there. But Sean is still a professional journalist. He writes for People magazine and
cool.
Yeah, he's at it all the time. So tons of respect for that.
Totally, yeah. And so I guess we'll jump to kind of that first album gets released 2015, AOID, or is it pronounced or the initials?
That's what I say, AOID, yeah.
Okay, so AOID, and there's one song I wanted to highlight because I actually captured it at that show in Johnny Brenda, so I figured people can get a flavor for the live performance and this great song called Charles Bernstein. Anything you want to do to set it up?
Well, Charles Bernstein is a real person. He's a contemporary American poet who we studied in a class I took in school, and just really love his poetry. And right around the time I wrote this song, he was top of mind. And I actually found out recently that he knows about this song and likes it. So cool. I'm very honored that he is not offended or annoyed. So yay.
or anything negative. So here is the Charles Bernstein approved Charles Bernstein by Ratboys.
This is a secret. This is the mojo we're working with. It all makes sense.
It has such like a childlike playfulness, like laughing till you pass out and wanting to vomit. Like, I don't know, it's just such a wonderful song. And obviously still has that Ratboys vibe to it.
Thanks. This is a very early one. Wrote this in like 2011, so I'm glad we're able to still bring it out. People enjoy it.
Yeah, and you can hear the crowd reaction. People loved it. Like that's why I kind of in here we do always like to kind of paint this picture of the story arc and the musical arc of the band. So
Yeah,
this hopefully sends people into the full catalog because all this great stuff is there.
Thanks. Yeah, it's a good deep cut. I actually heard some of the songs from our first record the other day, like a few weeks ago, not too long ago, and they're good. Like I'm into it.
Sure.
There's some good stuff there. And yeah, just great memories of recording that. We recorded it when Dave did an extra year at school. His program was 5 years instead of 4, and so
sure.
we were recording it on the weekends, like whenever he could come home. And a fun fact about that album is we were recording it in like a practice space, and so there were a lot of other bands in the building that were loud, louder than us, and so
right.
I recorded all of the vocals for that album like in the middle of the night or the early morning when no one was there. So
and you didn't have any of the other competing.
Exactly. So that's my enduring memory from tracking that record. But good times.
Yeah, and you're ripping a flying V here. That's pretty cool.
Thanks. Yeah. So my buddy Ian in Des Moines, Iowa, makes these guitars. His guitar project is called Nepco. And he's actually had to stop making. He's had to stop making these V guitars because Gibson got pretty upset, which I feel pretty responsible for because I was shouting from the rooftops about this guitar. Right. But he's still crushing it and making all sorts of whimsical, like sort of.
Just pick a different letter. It's a flying Y.
That's what I said. I'm like, make a Y. Make it turn it upside down. But no, he's making all sorts of awesome, like really cool shapes. So check it out.
Yeah, definitely check that out. Check out these early tracks. So while this is kind of continuing to come to a close here, other albums that you release are 2017 GN,
yep,
which gets a lot of accolades. I guess that must be where things start to really take off because one, I have an example here, is Rolling Stone called it 15 great albums you probably didn't hear in 2017, which is a really funny title list to really...
I'll take it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's back-ended, but I will take it.
Yeah.
That's very kind. Yeah, that year was great. 2017, we really started to tour a lot, like playing in more established venues. And yeah, that's the year we got hooked up with our booking agent, and that was kind of a turning point for us where we started to take it a little bit more seriously, or just have more, like, we invested a little bit more of our time in it than we thought we might ever do. So
yeah. And somewhere between 17 and 20, when Printer's Devil comes out, Marcus becomes the full-time drummer and joins the band officially, I guess.
Yeah. So Marcus, we first started touring with him right when Gene was coming out, and like I said, he plays in a bunch of bands, and so he just had so much, like, it's hard, he had a lot of constraints on his time, and so yeah, right around the time we recorded Printer's Devil, he expressed an interest in wanting to play more together, and that was always my dream to have a committed drummer and someone like Marcus who's just so great to spend time with and play with, and so we got really lucky.
Yeah, absolutely.
There we were. Wow.
Yeah, that was a great. And there's some like funky like jazz like breaks and stuff in there. That's like a fun song.
Thanks. Yeah, it's kind of all over the place. We love it.
But so I mean, like you guys must have to practice that one a ton because those stops and starts have to be so in sync.
Yeah, that is one that we definitely don't play to a metronome. Like there's a few that we do because there are kind of backing elements that we want to bring in on Marcus's little drum pad or whatever. But that one is very loose. You got to let it breathe. So yeah, it's good to jam that one a couple times before we hit the road because get it back in the fingers for sure.
That's right. Yes. And then the other album, 2021, Happy Birthday, Ratboy, gets released, I guess, as like a 10th anniversary, right? Like around a 10-year birthday, you probably would say. And then we talked about 2023, The Window, already, and the impact that all the world factors had on all of both of those albums. Because you were about to tour the Happy Birthday, Ratboy one when World hit.
It was Printer's Devil, yeah.
It was Printer's Devil, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. That came out in late February of 2020, and so yeah, we were 2 days away.
Perfectly on time.
I know, God. we were literally about to hit the road. But like I've told people, it could have been so much worse. Like some good friends of ours were already out on the road, like really far from home when
Sure.
everything shut down. And like, have you listened to the band Palehound at all?
No, I haven't.
They're really good.
Okay.
They put out
I
a
have
really,
2 now to check out.
okay, cool. Yeah, they put out a record last year called Eye on the Bat that is kind of inspired. The title track is inspired about their experience. You know, they're from the East Coast. I think Boston is where they were living during this time, and they were in San Francisco
Oh, jeez.
when everything shut down, and so they had to drive back across the country. But like, that was such a crazy time because
Mhm.
like McDonald's was closed. You know,
Right.
like I don't know how they even ate. Like I don't know what they did. And so that song, the title track from their record last year, is a diary entry of that.
That's awesome. I'll definitely have to check that out.
Anyway, but yeah, so it could have been way worse, and we made do. So
Sure. But yeah, and then 2 other things. So about touring, obviously you get back on tour. That was what we were just looking at. And you recently toured Japan. How cool was that?
oh yeah, that was amazing. I mean,
In honor of that, I was in Japan back in October. So I'm actually wearing
Really?
this t-shirt I got of like a record store that was in Japan.
oh my god. Well, that is one of the things about Japan that, like, you know, I feel like you hear all about the food and, you know, just the Shibuya crossing and like the big things in Tokyo, but 2 things that people just don't understand about Japan, or maybe on the surface wouldn't think about: the record stores.
Yep.
Unbelievable. And a lot of
Mhm.
the record stores have bars in them. That's just where people go to hang out with their friends.
Right.
Like, it's like a utopia. That's like the thing that we just don't have here. And then the bathrooms.
The bathrooms are
my
insane.
God. Like the default toilet in Japan has a heated seat and a bidet.
It's probably $10,000. Like
Yeah.
it's got that much technology to it.
Exactly.
And it's
They're very smart.
everywhere we went. We could have been in the farthest, most remote,
Exactly.
like temple or shrine that we were visiting, and there was a public restroom, and we went in it, clean, heated seat. It was like,
Yep. And
that is
sometimes it's like
impressive.
it's a toilet where when you walk in, the seat will like rise to greet you. It's like, hi. And I was blown away. So yeah, that's always a favorite part. But yeah, we're so lucky. Like this was our second time going over there. We went once in 2018,
Mhm.
play some shows, and yeah,
They
the
probably
shows
love
were
your
great.
music there. I'm sure they're into it.
I think so. I mean, it's nice. We get a little recap every week from Apple Music, just giving our stats or whatever, which I usually don't read because I don't.
You just
know that.
you talk about a wormhole you don't want to be down.
Yeah, exactly. But I looked at it when we were coming back from Japan, and Tokyo was our #1 city, and I'm like,
Oh,
oh,
that is
this is
so cool.
so cool.
Yeah.
So what an amazing place. And
It is. We didn't want to come home, and we feel like it was like, you know how you say like, oh, it was life changing. It truly was. Like there was like
Nice.
we were there. Our daughter was studying abroad
Cool.
in just outside of Tokyo, so we went for like a week to visit her, and then we added a longer weekend on the end to just be me and my wife. We went to Kyoto to just kind of
Beautiful.
check out that. And you guys got to feed the deer that bow their
Yeah.
heads. Like we didn't get to do that because it's close to Kyoto, but not. Like, you know, we were like, we want to go do that. And they're like, well, it's like really kind of not. You got to go take a whole day to go do it. But I wish we had done it. I was loving the videos you guys had out there.
Next time, it's worth doing. We didn't get to do that last time either, so this is our
You're like, we
our
are
redo.
bowing to deer this time.
Yes, no question.
That was super cool. And then the other thing I just wanted to mention here, because you know, we are based in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and you toured previously with one of our local. We always call them hometown headliners, Slingshot Dakota. You toured with them and know them well. You know Carly and Tom.
Slingshot Dakota are some of our oldest friends in music. We were / still are. I don't know. We were on the same record label, Top Shelf Records, back in the day. So we met them at a South by Southwest showcase that Top Shelf was putting on, I think, back in like 2016 maybe. And Carly and Tom are just some of the most like open-hearted, like fun, generous people. And so instantly they kind of took us under their wing and you know, taught us so much about touring and just being in a band and being good people on the road. And yeah. And so that next year we toured with them to South by in 2017. And that was the first time we played a lot of those GN songs live.
Got it.
And they were just so supportive and really great people. And so, Bethlehem is lucky to have them.
Yeah, I was going to share this. This was from our recent like in-person event called Listen to the Dissonance. It was done in the Ice House here in Bethlehem. It was last Sunday in the afternoon, and it was all music and conversations built around mental health. So there's Carly next to me in the middle there, and it was just her playing. So she just played keyboard and some of her songs, more acoustically, if you will. And then I mentioned Mike Maines. That's him in the blue sweater and his wife Shannon off there. So they were also a big part of the day. Between Carly and Mike is Sean Barna. He's an excellent artist who's out of Nashville now. And then to my left is Kufnuts and Christine Elise. They're like a Philadelphia, New Jersey-based an MC. So he raps and she plays the harp.
Wow.
So
cool.
it's this amazing sound that blows you away. So anyway, I didn't mean to kind of
That's amazing.
talk about that, but with Carly's connection, I thought it might be worth mentioning that. And we talked about this before coming on, that you do have Morning Zoo kind of about like mental health. And we're just always kind of like pointing at that potential healing power of music, that, if you struggle with something and you can find solace in knowing that someone else struggles in a similar way just by listening to some music that touches on that, then we try to always kind of point that stuff out.
Totally. I love that. Yeah. Morning Zoo is kind of about that dull anxiety where you wake up every day and it feels the same and you can't put your finger on it, but something is strange and off. But yeah, it's a really important conversation, and I'd love to listen more and learn more about it too.
Cool.
So
would love to share some more. I think it's an important thing, and something I think we're going to look to do annually because the reception was great.
Nice.
We needed to add chairs. Like we
cool.
It's hard to say you sold it out because it's all such a flexible space that we just kind of made a guess, but we underguessed, which is always a nice thing.
Nice. Love an underguess. That's great.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, it was definitely a cool day. But what can we? So we just talked about, you kind of just came off tour. What can we kind of help promote here other than just the excellence of your existing catalog and buy some merch to help support your efforts? I'll bring up your site in the meantime. Yeah.
Yeah. We actually just launched a new web store. Our former, there we are. Oh my God.
Nice. Yeah.
Our former web store partner went bankrupt, so that was a whole thing. But I
saw those.
That was not just us. That was like thousands of bands dealing with this, but pretty big company to go under. But what can you do? So we have all our stuff back, which is so awesome, and we got it all in our own hands, DIY style. So if you want some merch,
this is we always say, and maybe you can kind of echo this. This is one of like the best way to support an artist is to buy the merch straight from them, just because it just obviously streaming or digital downloads just don't give you the revenue in the slightest. It gives access to the music, but as far as like keeping you afloat, you kind of need to buy tickets to shows and buy merch from you.
Yeah, no, this helps a lot. Tickets to shows is great too. Yeah, we're playing a bunch of shows. We're touring a lot this year, more than last year. We have a lot coming up, and by the time this is out, I think the next one will be announced. We're opening up for the Decemberists all over the USA this year, which is very exciting. They have a new record coming out, which I'm really excited about. And
very cool. Yeah.
This is
the score. It opened a new window, so I realized I wasn't sharing.
There it is. Yes, there it is.
I was seeing it, but no one else was, and it was lovely. I was enjoying this. But anyway, here's all the different merch.
Yeah. So merch, tickets will be out on the road, and we have a Patreon page that we update pretty regularly.
Cool
last fall we made a podcast
that's right.
Each episode goes into a song in the order of the album sequence. So today, I guess we would have dropped episode 5, which is for the song No Way. And Sean, our bass player, the journalist guy, he put that together, and it turned out really good. And so for $5 a month, whatever, you can get access to those, plus all the crazy covers we made during COVID. There's a whole archive of stuff up there.
That's
if you're looking for some new content. But
very cool. Well, I do hope to catch you play live again. I hope you play even here in Bethlehem sometime. We should have you here for Music Fest or something. We have this.
We did Steel Stacks back in the day, nice. And it was great. So hope to come back. That'd be awesome.
The festival is a wonderful place to play too. So
yes, would love that.
But thank you so much for joining us today. This was such an honor to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Love the pod, so I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Julia. So there is our lovely interview with Julia Steiner of Ratboys.
That was lovely, and she was lovely. So it's a win across the board.
It sure is. It sure is. And those like little, I guess, bumpers, you might call them, the intro outro type stuff. So that was the opening to the track, The Window. So the layering in there of their sound is even in those little moments. So if you really liked anything you heard, you heard some tracks, one track from their very first album, Charles Bernstein, and you heard a bunch of stuff from The Window. So as you know, we always kind of add one at the end, after the credits roll. So with that, the track is my personal favorite. It's a song called Empty. So if you hang on after the closing credits, you'll hear one more Ratboys track.
And you can complete the whole journey. No, I'm just kidding. There's tons of stuff to set out. You should check it out. Great band. I mean, it's a great band. You've seen them live once before or twice now?
Actually, just the one time,
Right.
and the video that was captured of that old track was actually from the show I saw back in September.
Right. I just couldn't remember if it was once or twice. First, there's times when you're traveling and you suddenly are like, and then I saw so and so, and you're like, wait, you were in insert Denver here or whatever it is. And
Yeah, no, you're right about that. Well, a shout out to the app Bands in Town. To anybody who knows about this app, they love it. If you don't know it, check it out. It's a free app. And you can either tell it to track certain bands, or you can have it kind of search your phone for your either owned digital music or your playlists on either Spotify or Apple, and it'll then just kind of trigger those for you. And then you can set a radius of how far you'd be willing to travel, and it will alert you when they're playing. And then if you land in a different city, it'll ask you, do you want me to search? And you say yes. And so that's how it happens a lot of the times is, you land and you're good, and, it's 8 p.m. and you're sitting in a hotel and you suddenly see that you could go see, insert next favorite band here. And you're like, yeah, I'll go do that. It's a better use of my time.
Or I could watch more of this. What is this home HGTV that they got
right,
here?
no,
This
definitely don't need
this
that.
cable?
So yeah, that has happened, and you are correct about that. But no, I just thought too, like, just such great insight into their songwriting, the recording of this album, and how it was different, and some of the
Chris Walla is fantastic. I mean, him being associated with the project automatically gets attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and what he's done with Death Cab for Cuties or the Decemberists. I mean, to bring that up, he produced the Decemberists, who they'll be opening for. So that in itself is sort of a seal of approval.
All right, Phil, let's say goodbye to everybody.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Your Next Favorite Band. We'd like to sincerely thank Julia Steiner of Ratboys for joining us, for giving us such amazing stories as we were just sharing about their history of the band, how they kind of wrote some music, just such wonderful tidbits in there. And she's got such a great perspective and knowledge of the industry that I was thoroughly enjoying listening to that interview, and I was a part of it, but you don't always pay as much attention as when you can listen back. So hope you all enjoyed that as well, and you check out their music. There'll be links in the show notes to their website, Spotify, and YouTube channels, and any of the other elements that we chatted about there. And please check them out, give them a follow on the socials, subscribe to their content, and catch them for a show that they have nearby. Like we said, they happen to be the opener, but they still are just going to play their amazing music, and then you also get to see the Decemberists, so that would be a killer show as well. As always, our hope is to bring you your next favorite band. If you happen to have tuned in tonight because you already knew Ratboys, thank you so much for that. We hope you enjoyed what you heard and saw, and that you might consider liking and subscribing and following us, and so that we can bring you your next favorite band in a future week. Or check out nextfaveband.com, and you might already have your next favorite band already out there at a previous episode. All of our prior shows are out there for on-demand listening and viewing. Up next, we've got some great content coming up here in the rest of February and March, and we hope to see you at a live show soon. stick around here for my favorite track off of The Window by Ratboys, and it's a track called Empty. Enjoy.